Steph Curry just stepped into one of the biggest controversies surrounding the WNBA, and this time, he didn't stay on the sidelines. What started with a brutal foul involving Sophie Cunningham and DiJonai Carrington quickly exploded into a much bigger conversation about Caitlin Clark, physical play, race, media coverage, and the treatment of players bringing millions of new eyes to the league. And now Curry is reportedly stepping into the conversation. The incident happened during the Indiana Fever's matchup against the Chicago Sky. With just over 2 minutes remaining in the first quarter, Sophie Cunningham took off on a breakaway after going for a steal. She had open space ahead of her and looked like she was headed toward an easy 2 points. Then Carrington came from behind. Instead of making a clear play on the basketball, Carrington swung her left arm across Cunningham's head and neck. Cunningham never appeared to see the contact coming. She went down hard, although the ball somehow still dropped through the basket. The play immediately caused a reaction from Cunningham's teammates. The officials initially called a common foul, but after reviewing the replay, they upgraded it to a flagrant 2. Carrington was ejected from the game, and that decision became the first major flashpoint of the night. The officials determined that the contact was unnecessary and excessive, particularly because the contact was made around Cunningham's head and neck area. The replay became the center of the discussion because Carrington's arm extended across Cunningham rather than making an obvious attempt to secure the basketball. Cunningham's teammates quickly stepped in as emotions rose. Michaela Timson helped separate the players, while security eventually became involved. Carrington headed toward the tunnel after being ejected, but then something happened that made the moment even bigger. The Chicago crowd began supporting Cunningham. Instead of simply booing the opposing player, fans in the arena started chanting Cunningham's name. For many viewers, that reaction showed just how obvious the play looked in real time. And this wasn't the first controversy involving Carrington and an Indiana player. Back in the 2024 playoffs, Carrington made contact with Caitlin Clark around the eye during Indiana's series against Connecticut. Clark was left with a black eye, and the incident became one of the most talked-about moments of that playoff matchup. Carrington later said she was attempting to make a play on the ball and didn't realize exactly where the contact landed. But that history is exactly why the Cunningham incident immediately became part of a much larger debate. Critics began pointing to Carrington's previous flagrant fouls and other physical plays as evidence of the pattern. And then the conversation moved beyond Cunningham, because later in the same game, Caitlin Clark became involved in another controversial moment. Clark was driving toward the baseline when Natasha Cloud made contact with her. Clark stumbled out of bounds and made contact with rookie official Genesis Perriand. The official assessed Clark a technical foul, believing the contact with the referee was intentional. Indiana Fever head coach Stephanie White strongly disagreed. White argued that Clark was off balance and that the contact with the official was incidental. She received a technical foul herself while arguing the decision. And the situation mattered for another reason. The technical would have been Clark's 8th of the season, which would have triggered an automatic suspension under the league's rules. Suddenly, a single technical foul wasn't just another statistic. It potentially meant Caitlin Clark missing the next game. But the league quickly reversed course. Within hours, the technical foul against Clark was rescinded. That decision immediately became part of the larger debate. Because while Clark's technical was removed, Carrington's flagrant 2 ejection remained. For many fans, the contrast was impossible to ignore. Then Sophie Cunningham addressed the situation herself. At the post-game press conference, Cunningham didn't appear interested in turning the incident into a massive personal feud. She explained that she believed the contact was unnecessary and suggested that there was no personal history between herself and Carrington. She also questioned whether Carrington was looking for attention. That statement quickly spread across social media. But Carrington wasn't finished. After being ejected, she took the controversy online and posted the words "white privilege," while also tagging the Indiana Fever. She later referenced the date of the team's next matchup. That transformed the discussion. What had started as a controversial basketball play was now becoming a debate about race, treatment, and the growing tension surrounding Clark and the Fever. Cunningham pushed back. She pointed to her own experience from the previous season, when she had been ejected following a hard foul on J.C. Sheldon. Her argument was simple. She had been punished for her own physical play, accepted the decision, and moved forward. She believed the same standard should apply here. That became one of the biggest arguments online. Some fans criticized Carrington heavily, while others defended her aggressive style and argued that the play was part of normal physical basketball. But the replay remained at the center of everything, and that's where the debate became so divided. Some WNBA media voices described Carrington as an intense competitor who plays physical defense. Monica McNutt and Cindy Brunson were among those who discussed the play from that perspective. To their supporters, the WNBA has always been physical, and aggressive defense is part of the league's identity. But critics argue that there is a major difference between physical defense and contact that goes directly toward a player's head or neck. That disagreement exposed a much bigger issue. Is the league protecting its stars? Or is it allowing its established veterans to play through the same physical style that has always existed in the WNBA? And there is one name sitting at the center of that conversation: Caitlin Clark. Clark has become one of the biggest draws in women's basketball, bringing enormous attention to games wherever the Fever travel. Sophie Cunningham has also become a popular personality around the team. Their presence has helped attract casual basketball fans who may not have watched the WNBA regularly before. That's why every hard foul involving Clark or the Fever now receives significantly more attention, and that attention has created tension. Some fans believe Clark is being targeted because of her popularity. Others believe the physical treatment is simply part of professional basketball, and that Clark should be expected to deal with it like every other player. But now, some of the biggest names in basketball have entered the conversation. Charles Barkley has previously spoken about the physical treatment Clark receives. LeBron James has also publicly shown support for Clark. And now comes Steph Curry. Curry's connection to Clark goes back years. He supported her during her college career and praised her shooting ability before she became one of the WNBA's biggest stars. That makes his involvement especially interesting. Curry isn't simply another celebrity commenting on a viral clip. He is one of the most recognizable basketball players on the planet. And according to the story surrounding this controversy, Curry's message goes beyond saying that one foul was too aggressive. His larger argument is about the direction of the league. If the players who are attracting new fans are constantly being targeted, Curry's position is that the entire league could suffer, because Caitlin Clark isn't just bringing attention to herself. She's bringing attention to the WNBA. More viewers means more conversations. More conversations mean more exposure. And more exposure can mean bigger opportunities for the entire league. That's why the debate over physical play has become so important. You can argue about whether Carrington intended to hurt Cunningham. You can argue about whether Clark's technical foul should have been called. You can argue about whether the media is protecting certain veterans. But one thing is undeniable: these incidents are now attracting massive attention. And that changes the stakes. The Fever eventually won the game 90-86. Kelsey Mitchell led Indiana with 27 points. Caitlin Clark finished with 26 points and 11 assists. Aaliyah Boston added another double-double. So despite the controversy, the Fever walked away with a victory. But the final score wasn't the only story. The game left behind a much bigger conversation about how the WNBA handles physical play, how officials treat its biggest stars, and whether the league's growing popularity is changing the way every controversial moment is viewed. And that's why Steph Curry's involvement matters. When a player of Curry's stature speaks about the WNBA, people listen. For years, the league has worked to grow its audience. Now it has players capable of attracting that audience in ways the WNBA has never experienced before. Caitlin Clark is one of those players. And the question facing the league is simple. How do you protect the competitive physicality that makes professional basketball great without allowing that physicality to overshadow the players who are helping build the next generation of fans? The Cunningham incident has now become part of that conversation. The Clark technical has become part of it. Carrington's social media response has become part of it, and Curry entering the discussion could make the debate even bigger, because this is no longer just about one foul. It's about the direction of women's basketball. It's about the relationship between veterans and rising stars. It's about how the media covers controversial plays. And most importantly, it's about what happens when the fastest-growing attention in the sport collides with the old-school physical culture that has defined the league for years. The Fever survived the chaos and got the win, but the controversy isn't going away. The next time Indiana and Chicago meet, every collision, every hard screen, every whistle, and every defensive play will be watched much more closely. And after everything that happened here, one thing is certain. The rivalry just got a whole lot more intense. So what do you think? Was Carrington's foul simply an overly aggressive basketball play, or did it cross the line? And do you think players like Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham are being treated differently because of the attention surrounding them? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more WNBA and basketball stories.